All right, today we're going to talk about parallel and perpendicular lines. So first we're going to talk about identifying parallel lines. And down here, our big idea is that parallel lines have the same slope. So we're going to look at the slope of these three lines over here on the right. So for line A, I'm going down 1 and over 5. So my slope is -1/5. For B, I'm going down 1 and over 4. And then for C, I'm going down 1 and over 5. Okay, so it looks like A and C have the same slope. So we'd say line A is parallel, that's these two lines, to line C. Okay, these two lines mean parallel. Writing the equation of a parallel line. So we have a line that passes through the point 5, -4, and is parallel to y equals 2x plus 3. So first thing we're going to do is try to find B. So a parallel line has the same slope, so it'd still have to be 2. And then I'm going to use the point they gave us. So instead of y, we're going to plug in a -4. Instead of x, we're going to plug in a 5. So when I solve for b, it looks like I'm going to get -14. So my equation would be y equals 2x minus 14. We can also use point slope formula that we talked about in section 2. So I could start with my slope of 2 still and my point. So I'd have y plus 4, because it's always the opposite sign, equals 2 times x minus 5. Okay, and it just asked for equation. It didn't ask for a specific form. So really we could stop here, or we could keep going to put it into this form. But they didn't specify, so we could be done here. And I'm actually going to go ahead and leave it. But just as a note, this is called slope-intercept form. And this is point-slope form. So if they ask you for a specific one, you have to use that one. But this one just says an equation. It didn't ask for a specific one, so we can do either. So you want to make sure you're reading your instructions carefully. All right, perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal or negative reciprocal slopes. I like to use the word opposite more because if it's negative, it's going to be positive instead. It's not always going to be a negative symbol. So like here, I'm -2. The opposite reciprocal is +1/2. So even though it says negative reciprocal in our book, I like to use the word opposite. So vertical lines are perpendicular to horizontal lines. Okay, but here, -2, the opposite reciprocal is 1/2. All right, identifying parallel and perpendicular lines. So let's just talk about our slope. For line A, our slope is 4. For line B, I'm going to have to do some rearranging. So I'm going to subtract x from both sides. And then I'm going to divide everything by 4. That's going to give me -1/4 x plus 3/4. So my slope is -1/4. And then again, I'm going to have to rearrange on C. So I'm going to start by adding 2x to both sides. And I'm going to divide by -8. So again, I get negative 1/4 x minus 2. So I'm just going to make a little answer box up here. Parallel would be B is parallel to C, and perpendicular A is perpendicular to B, and A is perpendicular to C because they have opposite reciprocal slopes. Negative 1/4 is the opposite reciprocal of 4. Writing an equation of a perpendicular line. So they want us to use the point negative 3, 1 and perpendicular to 1/2. So the opposite reciprocal of 1/2, so I flip it upside down, I'd have 2 over 1, and since it was positive, now it's negative. And that's the same as just negative 2. So again, I can use either method from the front side of our notes. So let's say we want to use point slope form. We're going to do y minus 1 equals negative 2 times x plus 3, because again, we want the opposite sign here. And I'm going to go ahead and solve for slope-intercept form. So after I distribute, I get negative 2x minus 6, and then I have to add 1 to both sides. So negative 2x minus 5. The position of a helicopter search and rescue crew is shown in the graph. The shortest flight path to the shoreline is one that is perpendicular to the shoreline. Write an equation that represents this path. Okay, so we want these to be perpendicular. It looks like the shoreline, let's find its slope. Wherever your line goes right through a grid, so right through the corner of a grid box, you can add a point. So I'm going to add a point here and here. And I'm going to find the slope of this. So this is down 2 over 3. So this slope is negative 2/3, but I want it to be perpendicular. So if I flip that upside down, I'd have 3/2, and I want this one to be positive because this one was negative, the opposite reciprocal. Then I'm going to use my point, and then I'm going to use method 2 again like I did above. So I'm going to do y minus 4 equals 3/2 times x minus 14. And again, they didn't specify a form, so I could leave it like this because they didn't say it has to be slope-intercept. But just for practice sake, I'm going to go ahead and change it to slope-intercept. So then I'd have y minus 4 equals 3/2 x minus 21. And then when I add 4, I'd have y equals 3/2 x minus 17. All right, this is your assignment for today. It's posted right underneath this video.